Welcome to part 8 of the definitive Metroidvania tier list. I'll be your host, the Metroidvania Guru, and if you've been following my channel, you know exactly what's going on, but if I have any newcomers, I'll make this short and sweet. This is my attempt at ranking every single Metroidvania in existence. I just pick a few on each episode, and the Metroidvanias that are chosen are done randomly through a picker I have. I spend a significant amount of time on each one, basically because 1, I talk too much, and 2, I want to really give each Metroidvania the time it deserves, and I want to justify placing it exactly where I place it. So what I do is I go over the pros and cons of each title, talk about some spoilers, which I do dedicate to its own spoiler section, so don't worry. Then I go into my final thoughts, and then finally I rank it. But sometimes, before I go into the titles, I do some amending, and that's what's going to happen here right now. I have a couple of titles that I want to amend that are currently already on this list. The first one is one that I was actually called out on, and I get it. I was very subjective. It's a game that I really love. I think, taking a look at it objectively, this title should be lower on the list. And that title, unfortunately, is Dead or School. It's not a Metroidvania. It's so close to being one, but it's not. And because of that, I'm going to put it in the F tier. I'll put it top F. I'll put it at the top of the F tier because I hate Tokitori and Negrosphere. But yeah, it's not a Metroidvania, so that's where the F tier goes at this point, it would seem. So yeah, there we go. Dead or School, put it in the F tier. I hate to see it, but it makes sense because it's really not a Metroidvania. My second amendment might be a little controversial. I don't know, maybe, we'll see. But it's The Messenger, and I think I'm going to knock it down. I have it in C tier right now. I think I'm going to keep it in C, but I'm going to push it down not too far. I think that's fair. I want to put it below Fist. And my reasoning really for that is just, half of the game is a Metroidvania, and that latter half, that Metroidvania half, it really isn't all that great. Now, don't get me wrong, I love The Messenger, and I do love that part, or I like that part. It's just, as a Metroidvania, it really just kind of doesn't go all the way. It doesn't do everything that you want to do, or that you'd want a Metroidvania to do. It is a little clunky, and the whole having to the level design where you have to go through the portals and figure puzzles out by doing that, and these portals are stationary to let you go from the past to the future. That level design just can really irk me. And so I figured I'd just knock it down a couple of pegs. It's still a good game. It's a C. It's an average. And it's just went a little closer to the average part of average, the middle part. So I don't think that'll be too controversial, but you all let me know. I just, as a Metroidvania, it's just not the best example of one. Okay, intro out of the way, amendments out of the way. Let's get into our first game. First game on today's episode is Mystik Belle Enchanted Edition. I got some comments about this game because I did a video on it, card up top if you want to check it out. And some people were asking, what's the difference between Mystik Belle and Mystik Belle Enchanted Edition? And I'm not gonna lie to you, I have no idea. I've never played Mystik Belle. I've only played Mystik Belle Enchanted Edition, and I played it on the Switch. So if anyone out there would like to enlighten me and our audience here, we'd really appreciate it. Throw it down in the comments. What is the difference between Mystik Belle and Mystik Belle Enchanted Edition? And so with that call to action out of the way, let's get into the pros of Mystik Belle Enchanted Edition. Alright, first bullet point I have is that it is a great concept that works pretty well. And what I mean by that is, it's a Metroidvania spliced with a point-and-click adventure. Now, I know a lot of people have, pointed out to me that it's not a true point-and-click adventure because you don't use a mouse or whatnot, or a mouse interface, or however you want to say that. And it's more of like the early Dizzy games or whatever. And that's cool, but I just going off the marketing of the game, they call it a point-and-click adventure, so I just move with that, man. And so yeah, anyways, if you've ever played a point-and-click adventure, say my favorite's always been Maniac Mansion. I played that on the NES. God, I love that game so much. But yeah, if you've ever played a point-and-click adventure, then you know kind of what you're in for. A lot of point-and-click adventures are a little silly, and this game is a little silly. Not only that, but it's really just kind of collecting random items and then trying to figure out how to use those items for obscure puzzles and situations you find throughout the game, the adventure, or whatever. And that's basically what you do in Mystik Belle. You're this witch in a school, a magic school, I guess kind of like Harry Potter, but not Harry Potter. You're a witch instead, whatever. I don't know. Anyway, so you're a witch and you're in the school, and something happens, you ruin the brew or whatever for this special night, and then you have to basically find the ingredients for this brew so you don't ruin the night, you know, whatever. And so as this witch, as Belle, you're going around the schoolyard, you go underwater at one point, you go in these caverns, you go to these woods, you go all over the place, and you're collecting items because there's going to be things that are blocking your path, right? And so you have to find stuff and then use it in ways that are typically non-traditional than what you would imagine they would be used, and then you can move forward. I don't want to give too much away, but there's some things that are like, you know, someone thinks they're ugly, so you find a mop, you cut the mop off, and then you give them the mop top as a wig, and then she thinks she's beautiful, and then she gives you what you need to move forward. There's another part where you gotta take this, she's like the school like lunch lady, and she hates flies, so you have to like gather trash and then put them around her so the flies will bug her so you can get something. It's really weird and bizarre stuff, and I you know, I just thought it was really funny and it worked really well. And I was surprised at how well it worked in a Metroidvania, because like any Metroidvania, all these biomes are interconnected, right? And so things are in the way, and you have to, you know, solve these weird puzzles in order to move forward. And as you are moving forward through the game, you actually get abilities, just like you would in any other Metroidvania. And so you got to figure out how these abilities work with your items to then work with the characters and interactions with all this other weird stuff. It gets really weird and goofy. And ultimately, I just thought it was a really great concept that worked very, very well. All right, I'll move on from that bullet point. We'll go to the next one. I say it has great pixel work. It really does. It reminds me of like a 32X game from the Sega Genesis or some like early Saturn games or something like that. I don't know. I just really liked what the game was putting down. I thought it looked really, really fantastic. It controlled well. That's my next bullet point here. It controlled really well, jumping and shooting and all that stuff. Felt really, really good. My next bullet is that the abilities were interesting. You know, you got your dash through the air. I think you get a double jump in the game. It's been a minute since I've played it. I know you can like create electricity to move elevators or something like that. At some point you learn to breathe underwater. Like none of it really blows your mind. You've seen it in other Metroidvanias. I think at one point you can like shrink yourself and go into like mouse holes or something like that. But yeah, the abilities work. The way that they're integrated into the environment is interesting. But yeah, it won't blow your mind. I really thought this game had some really good music. It's very Halloween-y, spooky, but at the same time, it's almost chiptune, not really chiptune-ish, but you definitely could tell it's coming from that 1632-bit era. And regardless of what the track was, whether it was supposed to be eerie or it was supposed to be spooky or whatever, it always had this upbeat vibe to it. I don't know, I just thought it was really, really cool. My next bullet point here is the humor. I thought the humor worked in this game. Humor in video games is always kind of tough in my opinion, because sometimes, especially when it comes to indie titles, humor tends to be more self-deprecating than actually situational or whatever. But the humor in this game really focused more on like goofy situations and the characters. And that's how humor should work. Like, I'm laughing at the characters and the bizarreness and all the wacky stuff going on the screen, and not at, you know, the characters making fun of the developers of the game or some fourth wall breaking meta bullcrap. Don't worry, we'll get into that with our next section, or not our next section, but our next game, good God. But yeah, humor worked. There's some cussing in the game, you know, it doesn't bother me, but just to let you know in case you're like, oh, maybe I'll let my kid play this game, because it looks like a kid-friendly game, but yeah, it's these characters got mouths on them, let me tell you. My next pro is that the world here is small. It's a small, compact world, and it has fast travel, which makes backtracking in this game very manageable. And that's really important, talking about the backtracking, because you will have to be doing that a lot in this game, especially if you're going for the true ending, and we'll get to that here in a couple more bullet points. But yeah, the world is very small, and I think that's a good thing, and that's because of my next bullet point, that the game is also short and sweet. I can't exactly remember how long the game was, 4 or 5 hours, maybe a little bit less, I can't remember. I remember beating it in just 2 sittings. But because the game is so short and sweet and the world is very, very dense, it's small and it's dense, there's a lot to do. It just all felt very, very purposeful and worked really, really well. So yeah, short and sweet game with a small, concise world with well implemented fast travel to make backtracking, you know, manageable. Yeah, this is a pretty quick game for any Metroidvania vet out there. And finally, my last pro for Mystik Belle is that there is a path to a true ending. for such a short game that's really, kind of silly and you wouldn't expect much from, the devs really went all out when it came to the Metroidvania tropes. And in this case, I'm talking about a path to the true ending. I'll get into that in the spoiler section because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but yeah, there is, a regular ending to the game that kind of sucks, and then there is a path to the true ending that, gives you a little bit more. So I'm trying to be vague here. I'll get into it in the spoiler section, but yes, I really love the fact that even in this short little goofy game, they went all out on the Metroidvania tropes, and it just is absolutely fantastic. All right, onto the cons. First I have, I'm not sure who this game is marketed toward. Like, it's tough to pinpoint the audience. Like I said, it looks like a childish game, but it has some characters and they got some language, man. And so I feel like it was targeted to me, like not personally, but my generation, where we grew up with Sega Saturn games, right? We grew up with those 32-bit games. And I feel like the 32-bit era isn't talked about enough, but it was probably my favorite aesthetic throughout all of, gaming's history. Because everyone knows the 8-bit, right? 8-bit is like, NES and things like that. Then we got 16-bit, so that's the next generation up. So we got Super Nintendo and we got the Sega Genesis. Then a lot of people go straight to the 64-bit era because that's really what happened next was the Nintendo 64 and the Sony PlayStation, right? But correct me if I'm wrong, is the Sony PlayStation considered 32-bit? I don't know. I can't remember anymore. But I do know that there was a 32X on the Sega Genesis and the Sega Saturn, which I do believe was 32-bit, or it fluctuated from 32 and 64. But anyways, that 32-bit era was really cool because that was when we really started getting CD quality music, CD quality cutscenes, CD quality just sound effects. Like everything just started to sound more crisp, and everything was very, very Japanese at the time as well. And so everything was bright and cheery, and it just, I don't know, man. It really just takes me back. And this game kind of does that for me. And so I guess it's marketed towards my generation who really appreciated that 32-bit era. But I don't know, beyond our generation, I don't know if kids would dig this game or if anyone below us would dig this game because it's just, it's almost a love letter to a bygone era. It's a Metroidvania with 32-bit aesthetics. That's also a point and click. That's really gonna drive down its niche and drive down its audience, right? And the fact that it looks like it's a childish or a game for kids, but it's not. But anyways, that's kind of a nitpick. Moving on to the cons, the next con, we have, there are some obscure solutions. And really, this is to be expected for a point-and-click adventure type game. It's just like a thing, that happens in these point-and-click games. You have an inventory, you have a bunch of different items in an inventory, and then you got to figure out how they work. So you're just mashing things together and trying to figure stuff out, and it gets really weird and really obscure. And it's like, if you have to use a walkthrough on this game, I wouldn't be surprised. I think I needed a walkthrough in one area, and that was I didn't know how to get the werewolf's fingernail or toenail or something like that. Claw, I guess, would be a better term for it. It's part of the brew. Like, there's 3 ingredients. That's one of the ingredients. And at the beginning of the game, they give you nail clippers. And, of course, it turns out to be a red herring. You need to find, like bolt cutters or something like that. And to find the bolt cutters in the game is really, really hard to do. I couldn't figure it out. I had to look it up. And I was like, really? That's how they do it? So, whatever. Anyway, I think I talk about it in depth in my video on Mystik Belle, but yeah, that's not even the only one. There's plenty like that. So just know if you do play this game, there's going to be some obscure solutions to some crap, and you might have to use a walkthrough. Just unless you got a big galaxy brain, unlike me. So the next bullet point I have here for cons is inventory system was obnoxious. Belle can only hold, so many items. I can't remember how many items it is, and I don't think it was as obnoxious as, say, like Signalis, if you played Signalis, where, oh my god. Anyway, the inventory system in this game can be kind of obnoxious too. Belle can only hold so much, and then what she can't hold, she has to put in this chest, right? And these chests are all over the school, but it's still a lot of, backtracking in order to go back and get you know, the thing that you need when you need it. I don't know. I hate inventory systems like that. I know it's part of the point and click adventure type genre, but I don't know. It just, when it comes to a Metroidvania, it really messed with the flow of the game. And it's like, oh, I got to go back and get this stupid thing. So I don't know. Maybe it's not a big issue for you, but it is for me. And I think it really affected the flow of the game. And the last con I have is that the leveling system was weird and ultimately unnecessary. You level up by killing things in the game. Your experience goes up. That's perfectly fine. There's not a whole lot you can do. Every time you level up, your fireballs that you shoot get bigger and wider and stronger and faster or something like that. But what sucks is every time you die, you lose all of your experience that you have gotten up to that point. So if I'm level 1 and I'm like 75% up to level 2 and I die, I go back to level 1 at 0%. And it's not difficult in this game to die. So I remember dying a lot when I was about to get a level up. So I didn't get max level until like really late into the game because I just had this really bad luck where every time I was at 99%, right? Almost about to get to the next level, I would die and it would all be gone. And it's not like a Souls-like where you can like retrieve your experience or anything like that. No, it's just gone. So I don't know, it just wasn't my favorite. And now we're going to head into the spoiler section. So I'll give it a couple of seconds before we go. 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. And so the first thing in spoilers I want to talk about is that path to the true ending. It's cool that they put a true ending in the game and allow you to, you know, explore to find it. I love when you get to explore and find something that leads you down an alternate path in a video game. It's my favorite. And again, it's really cool that this goofy, silly 4 to 5 hour long game does this. But it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's fine because it is such a silly and goofy game, but it's just, you find these scrolls just around the school. They're just in the most ridiculous and weird places. And they tell you about the true nature of the holiday that you're making the brew for. And since we're in the spoiler section, I'll tell you what's going on. So this night, I can't remember the night. I think it's a German word and I don't remember how to pronounce it. But I think it's every year witches create this brew and then they drop this brew into this hole that's in the school. And basically Cthulhu lives down in that hole. And as long as they do this brew, it keeps Cthulhu asleep and nobody dies. So that's, you know, great, I suppose. Well, you ruined the brew, and so that's the premise of the game. You have to collect all the ingredients to make the brew. Now, again, Belle doesn't know about Cthulhu and why we're making the brew. She's just told that she ruined it and she needs to get the ingredients to remake it. And so you can go through the game, collect the ingredients, give it to the witches, and they'll be like, all right, thank you so much. We'll handle it from here. And then that's the end. It's a dumb ending, but it's perfectly fine. Well, dumb's not the word. It's a bad ending, and you're like, really? That can't be it, right? So it pushes you to be like, okay, what can you possibly do to figure out what exactly is happening? And that's when you start noticing these scrolls, and they're hidden pretty well too, these scrolls. And so you gather these scrolls, I think there's like 8 or something like that, and they tell you exactly what's going on this night. And then once you gather all the scrolls, you go to the end of the game, and you basically are like, no, we're not going to feed this thing. We're going to fight it now because, you know, our magic is better and we also have science now. We can fight this thing. And that's exactly what happens. You actually get to fight Cthulhu or whatever the heck it is. I don't know what it really is. It looks like Cthulhu. And so this brings me to my next 2 bullet points. 1, there is no final boss for the basic ending. Like I said, it just kind of abruptly ends. So that kind of sucks. And then the next point is that the final boss, it's like one of the worst types of final bosses that I hate. And it's not just that it's the boss, it's that they add a new mechanic right at the very end and they expect you to fight this thing. And I hate it so much because it's kind of difficult to figure out the mechanics of this new mechanic. Why did I say it like that? But anyway, basically you're given a giant robot, okay? And you got to use this giant robot to do Rock'em Sock'em Robot fight with the Cthulhu thing. And they don't tell you the buttons. You have no idea what the buttons do, and Cthulhu's on you like immediately, and you'll die like several times before you figure out that you actually have 2 different types of punches. It's kind of a really, really crappy way to end a game, in my opinion. Anytime they're like, oh yeah, everything that you've done, especially in a Metroidvania, everything that you've done, you've upped your levels, you've gotten all these different abilities, you got all this different equipment, things like that. All of it is thrown out the window so you can do a Rock'em Sock'em fight. It's just like, it's antithetical to what we want to see in a Metroidvania. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm okay with adding a new mechanic during a boss fight, or during any fight, to be honest with you. But to completely negate everything you've done up to that point, and just do this weird, like, robot boxing match, it just made the rest of the game feel kind of pointless. And I just had a real issue with it. And I guess this kind of like tangentially brings me to the next bullet point, and that's about the secret biome in the game. Another wonderful Metroidvania trope is like the hidden biome. It's that biome that you can't find by any regular means. You either have to do a lot of exploring, you know, out of the way of the critical path, or you have to do something special in order to get it. Mystik Belle falls in the latter, in that you have to find this item that's dropped by one specific enemy in the game in like a very late biome in the game. I don't know what the drop rate is, but it seems to be pretty high because I was able to get it just by naturally going back and forth through this biome. And this enemy would just spawn regularly and I would kill it, and eventually it dropped. I think it's a necklace or something like that. And so what you're supposed to do is you hold this necklace in your inventory, and then as you use the fast travel system, which is like, I can't remember, it's like a portal, it might be mirrors or something like that. It's been a minute since I played the game. But you use the fast travel system, and so you're teleporting from place to place. And basically it's like you get your wires crossed, and instead of fast traveling to the place where you want to go, you end up in this mysterious, you know, secret biome. And I just thought that was really, really cool. And what makes it even better is this biome is very, very strange. It's almost kind of like Alice in Wonderland-y, I suppose. Like, the enemies are very odd and they just don't really fit with anything else, but it just works. It's really, 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 really creative. But the best part about this secret biome is that you get rewarded. Like, you actually fight like a secret boss or an optional boss or mini boss or something like that. You defeat this thing and it gives you a spell, and if I remember correctly, I think it's like a regen spell. So it's like you can't really heal in the game under regular circumstances. You gotta like find a save point or something like that. But now, since you found this secret biome, you beat the secret boss, you get a secret spell. Like, that's the kind of stuff Metroidvania fans live for. And so now I have this amazing regen spell that's passive. Like, I don't think you have to even use a button to do it. It's you're constantly, you know, regaining health as you move along. It's awesome. And that's what makes the final boss in this game suck so hard. Because you're like, yes, I'm max level, I got all these awesome fireballs, now I got regen, I have all these other spells, I'm absolutely going to crush this Cthulhu thing. And then you get there and it strips all that away from you, puts you in a giant robot and says, there you go. I get that it's meant for a laugh, and it is pretty funny, especially what Mystik Belle says after she wins a fight, but it still just makes everything up to that point just absolutely just nothing, and I hated it so much. And yeah, I think that's it for everything in the spoilers I want to talk about. Now we're going to move on to my final thoughts. All right, final thoughts for Mystik Belle. Mystik Belle is a surprisingly entertaining game. I loved that it had a true ending. I'll always love a game that rewards extracurricular exploration. It's a solid Metroidvania with a point-and-click adventure twist. Typically, I hate puzzle platformer MVs, but Mystik Belle had enough action and uniqueness to keep me hooked, and its brevity worked in its favor. I think I beat it in a sitting or two, and I think I said that earlier. Anyway, it might not be for everyone, but MV vets might find its silliness and odd take on the genre kind of refreshing. And with that said, where would I place it on the tier list? Let me grab it here. Maybe I can't grab it. Oh, there it is. Oh, nope, it's not a D. Maybe it's D. I don't know. Let me think. I don't think it's a D. Let me think about it for a second. No, I'd at least give it a C because it does everything that a good Metroidvania should do. So it's at least average. I'm gonna put above Gato. I think it's better than Circle of the Moon. Yeah, it's better than that. Better than yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm good with that. Right there. I'll put it right under Fist. It's an average Metroidvania in my opinion. It's mid to high, I would imagine, when it comes to, yeah, mid to high average. If that makes sense. So yeah, Mystik Belle is a pretty good game. Again, it's only like 4 or 5 hours, and it's really goofy, and it has a unique take on the Metroidvania formula. So, and it does it well. That's the thing. There's a lot of Metroidvanias out there that'll be like, oh yeah, here's a Metroidvania, but we added this, and it's a little weird, right? And it's just like, well, yeah, but I mean, did it work? And I think Mystik Belle worked. So yeah, average, mid to high tier game. Yeah, check it out if you haven't. God. F tier, 100%. Get out of here. God, I hate 2 parsecs from Earth. Like, no joke. this might be my least favorite Metroidvania of all time. I legit hate this game. I don't really have a lot to say about it. It's so bad, but I'll do my best. Matter of fact, I'll be a little generous here, and I'll give it the highest F, because it is a Metroidvania, unlike the other 3 games in this row here. It at least is a Metroidvania, so it can at least have the prestige of being the only F tier Metroidvania on this list that is actually a Metroidvania. I think that's fair. Top of the F tier. You're the cream of the crap. Well done, 2 Parsecs from Earth. All right, seriously though, I do want to talk about it because it's not all bad, right? Right? It can't be all bad. Kind of is. But anyway, no, I got some pros here. Well, let's just get this over with. The first pro, I can't keep it together. This game, oh, I hate it so much. Okay, let me read. All right. What's wrong with me? The first pro that I have is art design. Oh, what is wrong with me? I gotta get this together. Okay, first pro, art design. The game, it doesn't look terrible. Like, the graphics are fine. The little robot, I can't even remember his name now, but the robot guy looks pretty good. And the enemies, pretty generic, but, you know, there's nothing egregious here. And again, it all looks fine. It's clean. I don't have a lot to say other than it's an okay art design. It's good. There is an interesting aspect to the game, and that's, in order to beat it, you have to find 30 pieces of cargo. And so the premise of the game is you're this robot and you're driving this ship or piloting a ship, and you wreck onto this planet, and all your cargo goes all over the place. And so you have to recover at least 30 pieces of cargo, find 3 batteries, and then you can leave. And so there is more than 30 pieces of cargo, you know, strewn around the planet, but all you gotta do is find 30. And to do that, you have to upgrade yourself and find abilities, just like any other Metroidvania. The twist here is that there are, I want to say 3, maybe 4, I think it's 3, but 3 places you can go to, it's like, they're like computer consoles or something like that, and it'll give you your ability. Now the twist is that each console has 2 abilities for you to choose from, and you only get 1 per playthrough, which is hilarious, because who in the hell would play this game more than once? But I digress. You pick your ability, that's the ability you get, and then that's basically how you're going to go through the rest of the game. Like, maybe you pick the double jump instead of the whatever the other thing is that you could pick. I think the other one's like an air dash, maybe. I could be wrong. But anyways, let's say you pick the double jump, because that's what I picked when I first played. And now you can only go through the parts of the level that require the double jump. You can't go through the parts of the level that require air dashes. That is actually really cool in theory, but also really stupid in practice. And I guess they thought they could get away with this because of my last pro on here, is that this game is short. That is the pro. It's short. I think you can beat it. I've seen people beat this game in like 45 minutes. I think it took me a couple of hours, something like that. But yeah, the game's short. It is meant to be replayed. I don't suggest that. I don't even suggest playing it one time. But if you really hate yourself, you can play this game multiple times, and you can have a different experience each time. And again, in theory, that's really cool, but the game just drops the ball in so many places. It's tough to be like, yeah, I want to play the second time to see what this other ability does. And so with that said, let's move on to the cons. The first con I have here is the platforming just sucks. It just sucks. You feel like you're playing a robot that's super heavy. It doesn't feel great to jump. Like, the gravity is off. It's just bad. I don't know. You'd have to play it again. I don't suggest doing that, but you would play it and you'd be like, yeah, this is really off. He just drops so fast when you jump, and trying to do a double jump it's garbage. My next con here is humor. Remember when I was talking about Mystik Belle and I said, oh yeah, humor, you know, when it comes to these indie games, it really goes one of 2 paths. They can do the correct path where it's like situational humor or has to do with characters and some witty writing or something like that. Or, like most indie games, they like to go the self-deprecating route and get, like, you know, fourth wall breaking meta bullcrap in there, right? Well, which one do you think 2 Parsecs from Earth decided to do? That's right. The entire game is fourth wall breaking, and it's just like making fun of itself or making fun of the devs or, you know, whatever. And it's just not funny. There are moments when it's almost funny, but it's just not. It's just so frequent. And then, like, The grammar's really bad. I don't know who developed this game, or well, I know who developed it, but I don't know exactly where they're from. It doesn't seem that English is their first language, and so whoever translated and localized it, they dropped the ball a lot. The grammar is really bad in this game, and it just makes the humor just hit that less, right? It just doesn't hit. More misses, I suppose. So yeah, every time this character talked, I was just like, please don't do that. Don't talk. Just shut up. I could not stand it. Next con I have here is that the map sucks. Yes, this map sucks. Matter of fact, I actually have some footage that I did myself of me playing this game, and this is the exact moment I realized that the map sucks. And I'll throw up some still images here just so you can get like a side-by-side to see what exactly is happening here. But essentially, I'm moving from screen to screen, and you'll see my icon that's supposed to represent me on the in-game map. It makes no sense where it lands. Like, I should be on the edge of this particular room in this biome, right? And it just sends me all the way to the other side. And then when I go back through the screen, you'll see it just jumps all the way over there. So your icon on the map is not helpful. It makes no sense, and it frustrates the crap out of me. Like, I don't know why it took me so long to figure out that that icon did not represent my true area that I was in. It was just like, oh my gosh. And so it's just absolutely worthless. I'm gonna have an aneurysm if I keep talking about this game. I got 2 more points. Let's get through this. Next are these stupid chase scenes, chase sequences, I suppose. There are 3 in the game. Every time you find a battery that you need for your ship, you get like inexplicably transported to this like scene, and this thing chases you, and you just gotta run and get to the end, right? And it makes no sense. Like, where the heck am I? What is this thing chasing me? And why does this happen every time I grab a battery? It makes absolutely no sense. And the game, it even like, you know, winks at you and it thinks it's funny because it's like, oh, this doesn't make sense, right? Isn't that funny that this happened? It doesn't make sense. No, it's so dumb. And maybe I could give this game some grace if it actually felt good to play, but it just doesn't. And so these stupid chase sequences with this stupid sense of humor, it blows my mind how much it didn't work. And the last con, mercifully, is that this game was just boring all around. There's no mystery, there's no mystique, the humor doesn't work. There's nothing that keeps you hooked in this game. It's just very bland, very boring. I mean, even like the enemy patterns, you see them just walking back and forth. It almost feels like a Flash game that I would have played on like E-Bombs World when I was in high school 20 years ago. I don't know, man. I can't even spoil anything to the game. Like, I'm not even going to put a spoiler section down. Here it is. Here's the spoilers. You collect all the stuff, you get on your ship, and you leave. The end. And if you want to come back and do another run, may God have mercy on your soul. So there you go. Spoilers out of the way. I'm not even going to put any timestamps or nothing on because who gives a crap. And final thoughts. All I have for my final thoughts is it just says sucks. And I think that's pretty succinct. This game sucks. I don't like it. It is, in fact, my least favorite Metroidvania I have ever played. I would love to hear what you all have to think about this game. Maybe I'm being cruel. Maybe I missed something. But this game absolutely blows. And let me know in the comments if you think that it's not the worst in the world. Maybe there's something that you think is even worse. I would love to hear it. But right now, I don't normally do this, but this gets the Metroidvania Guru certification of being the worst Metroidvania ever. There you go. 2 parsecs from Earth. Gross. And our last game for this episode is Ori and the Blind Forest. I haven't done a video on any of the Ori games yet, but I have talked about at least one of them, if not both, in the top 10s that I've created on my channel. I'll leave a card up top to the video I made, the top 10 overrated Metroidvanias of all time. And so yeah, I think you probably just from that can gather how I feel about Ori and the Blind Forest. And don't get me wrong, I think this is a really fantastic game, and we're going to talk about it, but I also think it is a little overrated, and I think people just really love how it looks and love the art of the game, which they should, and fail to see where it really lacks as a Metroidvania. But anyway, we'll get into that, and we'll start with the pros, and we'll start with its gorgeous presentation. It's absolutely next level stuff. And it's weird because it's like, do I consider this game an indie title. Does anyone think it's an indie title? I guess it is, but it was backed by Microsoft Studios, which is about as far from indie as you could possibly get. So I don't know. You all tell me. Is Ori an indie game? I don't think so. But regardless, it looks absolutely fantastic. From how it looks, from how it sounds, to it's just everything. It's a beautiful game, and it just all melds together to make this absolutely incredible experience. And that experience starts out so well. And of course, what I'm talking about is the next bullet point, and that's this game's opening. I can't recall off the top of my head which came out first, Ori and the Blind Forest or Pixar's Up. But if you've seen Up, then you know where I'm going with this. The opening to Blind Forest very much reminds me of Up's opening. I guess it's not Up's opening, it's a little in, but you know the part I'm talking about where it has the main, I can't remember any names off the top of my head, but you got your main character and his wife, and it really kind of shows the passage of time by how she, tightens his tie every morning. And it ends with, his wife passing away. Ori does a very similar bit where he gets taken in by, I want to say her name is Nehru, the big black, I don't know, gorilla looking thing. I have no idea. But anyway, she takes him in as like a child, right? And you see the passage of time as they build this bridge. And then as time goes on, the fruit that they use to eat, obviously, is becoming less and less available. So much so that Nehru actually ends up passing away, I assume from starvation or from some sort of illness. And it's just absolutely heartbreaking. Like, you hate to see it. Especially when Ori, curls up on her stomach and, starts, I don't know if he cries, but he looked really sad. It's very, very touching. It's a brutally visceral opening, and it does it all without a single word. Very much how Up does its kind of, opening. And so, yeah, this pretty much sets the tone to the game that this is going to be an emotional trip, and we'll get to that. Next pro I have here is that this game has great movement. I love moving around with Ori. Ori is one of the best MV protagonists when it comes to mobility. I would say if he's not number one, he's number two. And he's only been dethroned by Sargon from the Prince of Persia, the newest Prince of Persia game. But yeah, Ori is absolutely fun to jump around with, jump on walls with, air dash. Man, we'll get to the bash, but man, that is so much fun. But yeah, moving around with Ori is fantastic. And that brings me to my next pro here, and that is platforming. The platforming in this game is top tier. Obviously, I think its sequel does it even better, but I would hope so because that's the sequel. But anyway, back to this game, platforming, superb. And it really goes next level when you get into the bash ability. Let's just move on to that now. So the abilities in Ori are okay. They're decent. He eventually gets a climb ability, which we'll get to that in a second. He can do that kind of, I don't even know if it's a dash, but it's he just kind of flips forward real quick, that's pretty cool. He does get a double jump, and I think eventually a triple jump, or is that the second game? They kind of merge together at this point. I think he gets a triple jump eventually, but yeah, you get a double jump and a triple jump, and I think that's you find in the skill tree, and we'll get the skill tree here in a second too. Oh man, I'm going all over the place. But anyway, the abilities that you get in this game that you unlock they're fine, but the bash, oh man, that bash is absolutely excellent. Matter of fact, I talked about it in another video I made, the top 10 unique Metroidvania abilities. I'll put the card up top if you're interested. But yeah, the bash ability is just, it's top tier, next level stuff, man. You use it to jump off enemies, you use it to jump off of the environment, you use it to bounce off of projectiles, to deflect projectiles back at the enemy. It has a lot of utility, and it's just fun to use. I mean, you want to get somewhere, you bash off somebody, bounce off their projectile, bounce off this lantern, boom, now you're up top on this thing. And there's even times where it's you do multiple bashes to get across some sort of cavern or to get through a spike pit or something like that. It's so satisfying. And what makes it so fun is I don't know, man, right when you do bash, time kind of slows down. You hear the boom move, it's cool. It's really, really fun. I guess I'll go to the next pro that I have here, and that is the skill tree. Always like a skill tree in my Metroidvanias. That's kind of my favorite part about Metroidvanias is when they really do lean into the light RPG elements side of the Metroidvania. And so you collect stuff in this game, and you use these ability points to get more skills from the skill tree. It's nothing's going to blow your mind, but it's just nice that it's there, and you can unlock some pretty cool skills. Matter of fact, you turn your double jump into a triple jump and stuff. I can't remember if it's this game or the other game. I want to say you do that in this game, but yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do. Ooh, the thing I forgot about Bash. Sorry, I'm jumping back, but you get like a light grenade move in this game, which I think is only in the definitive edition. It wasn't in the original Ori game, but you get like this light grenade, and you throw it, and it explodes and does things. Yeah, cool. But you can also throw the grenade straight up in the air and then bash off your own grenade. Oh, that is so fun, man. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about exploration. Exploration in Ori is fine. It's pretty good. There's a lot to find as you're moving around the game, and really just kind of drinking in the environments is a reward in and of itself. But you can find ability points and life shards and get your mana up, or whatever the blue section's called. But yeah, there's a lot to find in this game. Not a whole lot to find, but again, the exploration's it's decent. It's fine. My next bullet here is emotional story. I don't want to get into it too much. I will in the spoilers. There will be a spoiler section this time around. But the story in Ori, which is fun to say, is an emotional one, and it sticks with you. I still remember the feeling I got, not just from the opening, but also the ending. Very, very emotional stuff. Very, very fantastic. I have lots to critique when it comes to the ending. We'll get to that in the spoilers, but just know you're in for an emotional ride, and it's worth it. It really is. Next pro is awesome set pieces. And this really has to do with the chase sequences in the game. And you'll see this in the cons, so spoilers for the con section coming up. But I'm not the biggest fan of the chase sequences in this game. I do like them. I think they're awesome, and they add a lot to the game. But they replace boss fights. And so there's that. There's no bosses in this game, throwing that out there. Again, spoilers for the cons. But anyway, back to these awesome set pieces. Yes, every time you do something major in the story, it's basically there's like 3 areas you got to go to and get 3 MacGuffins. Once you get the MacGuffin in that specific dungeon, then there's a chase sequence. They're really cool to look at. They're not as fun, in my opinion, to do because you have to have some sort of clairvoyance to get through some of it, or at least some sections of these sequences. But they're not entirely punishing in that if you do die, it just starts you at the beginning of the sequence again, so it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, they are an absolute spectacle, these chase sequences. They're really, really cool. My next pro here is world recontextualization. This is something that I touch on a lot when it comes to the Metroid series. I talked about it in Super Metroid, I talked about it in Dread, and now I'm going to talk about it with Ori and the Blind Forest. And what I mean by world recontextualization is that this world changes as you progress in the game. That's not as common in Metroidvanias as you would think. I can't think of a bunch off the top of my head, but I know this game does it. The 2 Metroid games I talked about does it. Hollow Knight does it with the Crossroads, where it starts getting more infection. What's another one does it? Time Spinner does it as well. That world change. That's part of the conceit of the game, is that you change the past and stuff happens in the future. I wish it did that more. But anyway, this isn't about Time Spinner. But yes, as you find these MacGuffins in the dungeons, the world will change. Like one is like it purifies the water, and then you can start swimming again, and so on and so forth. It's really cool. You'll love to see it every time a Metroidvania does recontextualize its world. And it's especially nice to see in Ori because it really does look like the world is changing, like for the better, because this game is absolutely beautiful, and to make it even more beautiful is a sight to see. And the last pro I want to talk about with Ori is the biome called the Misty Woods, I think is what it's called. The Misty Woods, I do believe. And the reason I'm kind of giving a shout out to it is that it is probably the only quote unquote Enchanted Woods level or biome I've ever liked. And that's a trope in video games, especially platformers, where they have this one like forest area or woods area, right? Where it's like it's enchanted and you go this direction, but then it pops you back through another unpredictable direction. You're like, whoa, where am I going? It's like a maze and it's weird. I absolutely hate that trope, but it's like all over the place. I don't know why. Like even I played Tevi not too long ago when they did it. I just hate it so much. But for some reason it works in Ori, and I don't really know why. I think it's because it's not trying to trick you or confuse you or waste your time. It's more of like a scene that you're playing out as opposed to getting stuck in, if that makes sense. And it just worked really well, and it didn't bug me. So if you want to do that trope, I guess do your best not to confuse the player. And I know, I get it. They're like in Tevi, you got those red flowers that tell you where to go. But then if you want to find other super secret stuff, you got to do some memorization and go off the beaten path. It's obnoxious, and I hate crap like that. But Ori doesn't do that. It more of like strings you along. Yeah, I'm completely cool with that. Completely cool with Misty Woods in this game. All right, moving on to the cons. The first major con that we have for Ori and the Blind Forest is that its combat is absolutely awful. I hate Blind Forest's combat so much. It starts out crappy, you upgrade it in the skill tree, and it ends pretty crappy still. It's just, and the reason I hate it is because you got like this little orb, right, that shoots lightning, and it's a very passive way to fight. Like, I don't feel like Ori's doing anything. It's this orb doing it, and even though I'm pressing the button and it's shooting, it doesn't feel great. And I can see an argument for why that would be good, and that could be because, you know, Ori is about platforming and about movement and things like that. So if you don't have to worry about attacking, and you just let the lightning do its homing attacks, all you got to do is focus on dodging with Ori and platforming and doing stuff like that. I hear that argument. I don't agree with it because, like, the combat in this game isn't that hard. You don't need to focus that much on movement. I didn't, at least. Next con, I won't belabor because we've already talked about it. And that's, there's no bosses in this game. It's just a bunch of chase sequences. They are lovely, these chase sequences, but I would have preferred a boss. In my, you know, that's just my opinion. That's why I like the sequel, because they do chase sequences and bosses. So, and you know, some people have came at me in the comments because I have this controversial take that you know, Blind Forest isn't the greatest Ori game, right? And they'll be like, well, the bosses aren't even good in Will o' the Wisps, and you know, my answer to that is, but they're there, and they're not terrible. I don't know. Everyone has their own opinions. I totally get that, but I would like to have seen some bosses in this game. But no, every single one is a chase sequence. And again, the chase sequences are great to look at, but I don't know. Just not my thing. Next con, the saving in this game is trash. I hate it. And it's one of the things, like, in theory, it's cool because you can make a save point anywhere, right? They got rid of this mechanic in the next Ori game. They just went to, like, auto saving, which was the move. That's the good move to do. In this game, it's a skill that you have. You can improve that skill in your skill tree, but it sucks because, one, you're in control of your saving. That's a double-edged sword, right? It's like you can save anywhere you want, but also if you forget to save, you kind of screw yourself a lot. So there's that. Another thing that sucks is that it actually takes mana or MP or whatever, the little blue balls that you use. It requires a resource to use the save, right? And it's not a lot, and you can build it up pretty quickly, but you know, there are times when I was in a pinch and it's like, I can't save because there's no enemies around. I can't get my MP back. That's kind of frustrating. I mean, you got to give me that, right? That's a little obnoxious, but yeah, I did not like the save system in this game, and I think a lot of people did it, and I think that's why they got rid of it in the sequel. So next up, yeah, I said that Ori has great movement, and I stick by that, but it's not perfect, and I don't think how he climbs the walls is great. Now, we'll get to that in a second. It's not so much the climbing, it's the sliding. Like, when he slides off a wall, it just, like, there's no slowdown. He just goes. Like, no change in velocity. He just goes, and it just, it felt a little awkward. I like to be able to, like, drag on the wall as I'm, you know, leaning against it, but Ori doesn't do that. Later on, this brings me to my last con. Later on, you get the climb ability, and that remedies that, where you can actually, like, hold on to the wall and you can stop and think, and you can go down and go up at your leisure, right? But it's just, you get that climb ability so late in the game. I think you actually get it in the Misty Woods, which is, I think before the final MacGuffin, right? You go to the Misty Woods and then you can go to the final dungeon for the final MacGuffin, I do believe. But yeah, it takes forever to get the climb ability, and I just thought it was very unnecessary. I was like, why didn't I just have this from the beginning of the game? And it's funny because, again, Ori, its strength is its platforming. It is a platforming game, right? I know all Metroidvanias are platformers, but this game really specializes in platforming. It does it really, really well. And so when the next Ori game comes out, they basically give you every skill that Ori has in this game, and they basically give it to you in Will-O-the-Wisps. And that game is much stronger for that, because it's like, hey, guess what? You have all this awesome platforming ability. You have all these awesome platforming abilities out the gate. Let's just go, right? Now, it's not exactly out the gate. I think you get it within like an hour of the game or something like that. But anyway, I guess what I'm saying is like the build up to get to where Ori feels absolutely fantastic to move with in Blind Forest takes a long time, and that should have been given to you much sooner, in my opinion. And with all the cons out of the way, we're going to move to all the spoilers, and we'll do that in 3, 2, 1. All right, I only really have like, I don't know, one spoilery thing I want to talk about, and that's the ending. I do have some critiques with it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know everything about everything, right? I'll give you my reading on this ending, my critique of this ending, and then I'll leave it out there for you guys to let me know if I'm right or wrong or whatever. But this ending is emotional, and I like it a lot, but I don't think they did a good job with it, or at least not the best it could do. And so, again, just to refresh your memory if you don't remember, basically the big owl that's the big bad guy in this game is a mother, and Ori's light, or the tree's light, had killed her children, right? And so in a fit of rage, the owl mother gets her revenge on the tree, and this is what's destroying the forest, because they got rid of the big papa tree, and now all the other trees are dying and stuff, right? That's pretty interesting. Like, you don't really see that very often, where it's like, oh wow, the quote unquote good guy actually killed the something from the bad guy and turned the bad guy bad, right? That's a pretty cool concept. And so the ending to this game, it wants the owl to reflect on what the current situation is in order to make a decision that is not something that you would see coming, but at the same time you understand. And so to get to that junction, the game had to do something I thought was really stupid, and it had to bring Nehru back to life, Ori's mother figure, I suppose. So she comes back to life, and I don't know why she comes back to life. Like, was she really even dead in the first place? Did that thing bring her back to life? Did something, what brought her back to life? I have no idea. And because of that confusion, I just feel lost with this ending. I'm like, what is happening? One, because I'm confused. Two, because it really just destroys that amazing opening. But if there's like a real reason why she comes back to life, then it's okay to ruin that opening, right? But anyways, Nehru returns somehow, and then the owl sees how Nehru is going to sacrifice herself to protect Ori, which is quote unquote her child. That's when the owl is like, I have one egg left, and if I waste time to exact my revenge, my only child is going to die. And so this big bad owl that's been harassing you and tormenting you this entire game decides that she's going to sacrifice herself because she wants to save her only child. And she has this revelation because she sees Nehru protecting her child. So she snaps out of her fit of rage, and through reason is like, oh my gosh, look what I'm doing. It's going to destroy my kid. I have to do something. So then the owl gets up, sacrifices herself, and then saves the child. And then Nehru and Ori take in the child, and then moves on to the next game. But it's interesting and great to have that moment when the two mothers are really kind of connecting. But again, what destroys it for me is I do not know how Nehru came back to life. I'll leave it to you all in the comments. Please help me out here. I want to figure this out. All right, and my final thoughts for Ori and the Blind Forest. Blind Forest is a great game with as many exceptional qualities as it has missed opportunities. You come to Ori for its astonishing visuals, presentation, and platforming, and tolerate its crappy combat. I can definitely see why Ori and the Blind Forest would be your favorite Metroidvania of all time, but I just think its sequel, Will o' the Wisps, blows it out of the water in every aspect. But if you've never played either Ori, you should remedy that sooner rather than later. And so, where would Ori and the Blind Forest go on this tier list? Well, let's see. We'll drop it in C just for a second. It's definitely above average. So don't get too mad. Oh, look at that! It's gonna move the whole roll down. Whole roll down. Let's see. I'm gonna move it. Man, I'm feeling B. I'm going down the line here. Nope. Nah. I love Guacamelee. Yes, I'm feeling it. Yeah, I'm feeling it. So it's a low to mid B, which is still really, really good. I have it above Axiom Verge. I do like it better than Axiom Verge. I do not think it's better than the Guacamelee games. I love the Guacamelee games. Gosh, I'm sitting here looking at these Shantaes. I don't think those Shantaes should be that high. I need to evaluate that. I need to play those games again and see. I really, really love Pirate's Curse and Seven Sirens, but I don't think they should be there. I don't know what I was thinking. Like, I don't think they're better than Guacamelee. Anyway, Ori, mid to low B, which is still really good. And I hope that doesn't upset you too much. I mean, if you have any repeals or if you have anything that you think that I may have missed, let me know in the comments. You know me, I will amend if you make a strong argument. So there you go. Ori, mid to low B. And that's it for part 8 of the definitive Metroidvania tier list. Keep looking at this tier list, and I'm liking it. I think it's coming out pretty great. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you think it's trash, but I think it's coming out pretty good. I'm especially happy that I got 2 Parsecs from Earth on there, baby. Oh boy, what a terrible game. It definitely deserves that F. I don't know. Am I being cruel? God, I hate that game so much. Oh my God. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this latest episode of the tier list. Love to hear what you have to say. Leave something in the comments below. And until next time with part 9, I will see you later.